So yeah, let's continue. I want to talk about what your mom and dad did for work. Let's do your mom first because I know she did a little bit of maybe house cleaning, but what else? What did she do?
Well, Dad didn't like Mom to work. It was the woman's job to raise the kids and keep the house. He did allow her to work a couple of times to get caught up in bills. So one of the first jobs I can remember that she did was working for Alverno College, and that was in Greendale, I think. And she was a cleaning lady. And because I was young, a lot when my dad would go to work, he would drop me off there, and then I would go find my mother a room, and I would write all over the chalkboards and stuff like that, and until she was ready to move to a different room. It was a Christian school, and the nuns were always really, really nice to me, and would talk to us. Then her next job was working for AC Spark Plug in the cafeteria. She would have to dish up food to the employees. I don't know if they had to pay for their food or not, but she really liked that job too. But then Dad wanted her home with him. So when they would go downtown to where my dad worked for the transit company, then they would always stop at a George Webb restaurant for a meal. And sometimes I got to go when I wasn't in school, and sometimes not. But she really did want to work. It's just that he wanted her available if he wanted to go out someplace. My dad supposedly had 3 jobs at one time. I heard that he had worked for Pittsburgh Plate Glass. He pumped gas at a filling station. I have no idea where. And he was a bus driver for the city of Milwaukee. And then there were times when he got the Oklahoma run, he called it. It was on the south side, and it was a better neighborhood. And there was a pizza place there, and I don't remember their name, but he would stop sometimes and pick up a pizza, half-baked, bring it home at 2 a.m, and get Mom and I up to eat it with him. So that was always kind of fun. And then sometimes we would drive to a point where his stop was, and then we would ride on the bus with him for a while. But yeah, Mom was very quiet, just like me. But she would never really volunteer for anything. But she would always be there if you wanted help. If you talked to her first, she was there for you. And I think that's how I started out in our marriage too. I was very quiet. I didn't want to go talk to neighbors because I didn't know what to say. And my job at Uncle Josh Bait Company changed me. I was forced to answer the phone. It was part of my job, and it gave me the confidence for talking to people.
What were your parents' approach to discipline? Did they yell and raise their voice? Did you get grounded?
I got it with the belt.
Spanked with a belt?
Yeah, bare bottom.
Is that when your shoes got stuck in the mud?
Yeah.
Going across the plowed field in the spring?
Yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And my dad was so angry, and he hit me with the belt quite a few times.
Because you got some nice shoes dirty?
No, my boots.
Because you got boots dirty?
Yeah. My dad was way stricter than my mom. She was easier to talk to. And he didn't have any patience for anything. I'm a little bit more patient than he was, but not much, I guess. And I mean, he was real bad when it came to food. He kind of knew I only remember Tom and I, because we were closer in age, but he knew that I hated peas, and he would put huge amounts of peas on my plate, and you had to eat them. You sat there at the table till you ate them. That's why I refuse to eat peas today. And because I thought nobody's going to make me eat those things again. But I remember sitting at the table till 10 o'clock at night, and then went to bed because I was stubborn. I wouldn't eat them. I got them for breakfast the next morning, and I think somehow my mother must have bailed me out, but he would get up just to make sure I ate them. And but he was very strict. Mother and I had a much better relationship.
Did he ever raise his voice to you?
Oh, him and Mom would go at it sometimes. I remember.
They would yell at each other.
Oh yeah, I remember one time. I don't remember what the argument was about, but she took the frying pan and slammed it into the sink. And that's pretty much about all I remember about that argument. Otherwise, mostly, I don't think they argued too much in front of us kids, or at least me. And Dad always poured green beans on Tom's plate because he thought he didn't like them, but he didn't know Tom really liked them. he kind of, it was just, I think he was controlling that way. But yeah, I don't agree. That's why when you two were little, I talked to a coworker about that situation, and she said, well, what she did with her girls, it was 1p for however many years old you were. And I remember doing that with you guys. And I remember telling you guys to mash them up with your potatoes. They won't taste so bad.
Yeah. And that works pretty well. It's a good trick.
Yeah. But, yeah, I didn't agree with that line of discipline. But you know what? My dad had a tough childhood. His father was a jerk. And I think a lot of that came from my grandfather, Milo.
Yeah. It can be pretty hard to break some cycles. It's the easiest thing is to just do what you know and what you've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, Dad, how would you describe yourself as a child? Were you happy?
I think for the most part I was pretty happy. I enjoyed spending a lot of time out in the woods and in the fields and playing in the haymow. I never got involved in after-school sports in high school because I had to get right home and do chores, and as most of the farm kids did at that time. But when I was in grade school, I only had 2 pairs of shoes. I had 1 pair for church, and the other pair of shoes was for everything else, including going in the barn, working in the barn, cleaning calf pens, and going to school. So one of my biggest things I had to do before going to school was make sure I had all the manure off the bottoms of my shoes, or otherwise it'd fall off under my desk. That'd be kind of embarrassing. But it wasn't a big issue as far as I was concerned. I was a bedwetter, so I guess that was the biggest stress I went through as a kid. And I prayed every night, and I wouldn't drink any water after supper. I did everything I could, and it just took me until I was like, 10 or 12 before I grew out of it.
Yeah. And that was pretty much the same situation for me. Yeah, I guess I inherited that.
Yeah, I was really a tight sleeper. When my head hit the pillow, I was out until morning. I'd never wake up at all. And Johnny went through the same thing as a puppy. She'd wet the bed sometimes until she was 3 years old.
That was disgusting.
Yeah, but she'd sleep really tight.
I guess you got that from your side of the family.
Yeah.
They kind of look alike.
Mom, same question to you. How would you describe yourself as a child? Were you happy?
I think so, overall. I remember, and I didn't go to kindergarten because they didn't offer it at Ben Franklin School, so it was first grade. I had quite a few friends. A lifelong friend that I still have is Madeline. You've heard me talk about her. And Bridget, who lives in Englewood, Colorado, and we're going to get to see her on Wednesday. And I remember having I think it was a first grade birthday party. My mom had a bunch of girls over, and we had birthday cake and played games and stuff. Mom wasn't much of a party giver, so we only got the one party a year. I guess I was kind of a willful kid because me and my dad would butt heads a lot. I wasn't about to cave into a lot of things that he wanted, although I know I was very well loved by both of them. And so I mean, like I would go out, oh, I remember Tom would take me out shooting the shotgun. Don't tell mom and dad. But Tom and I always kept a lot of secrets from mom and dad. We were very close.
A lot of kids growing up in the 60s, especially females, would have conflicts with their parents about what they were wearing because the kids would often want to wear mini skirts or a
Short
skirt,
shorts.
short shorts.
Yeah,
did
that-
you have those kinds of
Oh
conflicts
yeah, I would roll up my skirt after I left the house.
to make it shorter?
Tell them
Yeah.
about the time you got sent to the office at school.
Oh, and my brother Tom was a state patrol, and he decided to drive me to school in his squad car. And I got called to the office questioning why I had to be brought to school in a squad car.
Well, I was thinking about the time it was like below zero
Oh.
out. You had to wait for the bus outside.
In a skirt or a dress.
Well, and you wore trousers under your skirt or something,
Yeah,
right?
it was so cold, and we couldn't wear slacks of any kind. And so it was so cold out that day. So mom let me put on a pair of pants to wear under my either dress or skirt. And this was high school. And so then I was standing out there. We had to wait for the bus out at our bus stop because otherwise the bus wouldn't stop if we weren't there. Even he didn't care how cold it was. So anyhow, I was out there and with my pants on and under my skirt. And when I got to this high school, I went to my locker to get rid of my books and then go back to the bathroom to take the pants off because we didn't have backpacks. You just carried everything. Well, I got called to the office and yelled at for going into the school with pants on. And you know, you try standing out there sometimes when it's 20 below and all you're wearing is a skirt and nylons. They just don't cut it.
I got sent to the principal's office because I didn't have a belt on one day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You had to wear a belt.
Yeah, I had to wear a belt.
Well, didn't your hair touch your collar too, or was that
Oh,
Roger?
I always had short hair.
Oh,
I never had long hair. I didn't like long hair. My dad always cut my hair.
All right. I'm going to try to combine the next two sets of questions, which is your best memories of childhood or your worst. Did you get into trouble? Any stories you want to share? Anything in that arena?
Go ahead.
drag racing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was like 18 by that time. I wasn't really a kid anymore. But yeah, I got caught. I got a ticket for drag racing. I had a 61 Chevy that used to be my dad's car, and it had a 6-cylinder engine, and I bought it from him for $300. And then I put in a bigger V8 engine, a 283 with a 4-barrel carb, and a stick shift on the floor, and I was drag racing against one of my school friends, and a squad car came up behind us, and I pulled over right away because I saw the lights. So I pulled over, but my buddy took off running, and they chased him all the way to Palmyra. They never did catch him that night, but they got his license plate number, and he got a ticket. We both got hauled into court, and I got my ticket got dropped because I pulled over right away, but he got a fine for fleeing an officer.
Well, didn't they have you in the wrong car?
Yeah, but that was a minor thing.
Mm.
That didn't change anything.
Where were you doing the drag racing? Was it like a country road that was like a straight
Yeah.
section?
Do you remember the Bark River Road?
Uh-huh.
There's a spring along there.
Mhm.
There's a straight stretch, a quarter mile. It was marked off a quarter mile. Yeah, a white line across the road. All the kids would go out there and race. It was a bad place to race because it was lined with trees on both sides, and it was a narrow road.
Right,
It's
right.
like suicidal, but we all survived.
Mom, you have any memories?
Well, I had my own car in high school. It was a 1960 Ford Fairlane. wasn't a very good car, but got me around.
Probably
And-
didn't have power steering or power brakes, huh?
No,
Must
and it
have
didn't
been-
even, the windshield wipers were,
Vacuum
oh yeah,
operated.
vacuum
So
operated.
you had to let up on the gas to get them to go if it was raining heavy.
I remember driving to work one time and it was pouring. And I had to keep taking my foot off the gas to get the windshield wipers to work. But one of the things that we did when getting into trouble that I don't think my mom ever found out about, me and a couple girlfriends, we would go drive up and down Wisconsin Avenue in Milwaukee, wave to the sailors. And then Carol Johnson, she jumped out of the car at a stop and go light, I believe it was, and I couldn't find her because I couldn't park the car. So I had to keep trying to drive around and I couldn't find her. She ended up walking all the way home from Wisconsin Avenue.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that was
That's
a long, she must have hitchhiked, I don't know. I'll have to ask her about that
Cause
someday.
that's like 8 or 10 miles, isn't it?
Yeah,
Why couldn't you park the car?
I don't remember. I don't know if there was no parking on Wisconsin Avenue. Do you remember? But I couldn't find her. I kept driving around in circles trying to find her.
Hmm.
And never found her. In high school, in my probably junior and senior years, I used to go into the bathroom to smoke cigarettes with some of my other friends until we would get caught. And I quit smoking after we got married because he asked me to.
Was that hard to stop?
No, because I was just a social smoker. I was kind of disrespectful to my bookkeeping teacher, but he deserved it. I really was interested in office classes, in bookkeeping, and I'd ask a question about why we were doing something, and he would just give me the answer. He wouldn't tell me the why, and I wanted to know the why. And I would chew gum in his class, and of course you couldn't chew gum in high school. So he'd come over with a wastebasket and hold it in front of me, so I'd take my gum out and throw it in the wastebasket, reach down, grab my purse, and grab another piece of gum and put it in my mouth. So that was probably, of course it's minor nowadays, but I ended up failing algebra. I keep asking the teacher for help. I said, I can take the late bus home, but I said, I can come in, after class, and I'll just take the 4:30 bus home. But he'd never be there. And then my mother had my brother Jim go talk to him because she like I told you earlier, she wouldn't talk to people or no confrontation. And Jim went and he said he was kind of an idiot too, so.
Did you ever skip school?
No, never.
I did. In the spring, I'd go fishing.
I never skipped school.
I'd drive out to Lake Ripley and rent a rowboat and catch a few bluegills.
Did you ever get in trouble for that?
No, they
Oh,
never missed me. That was like the last day of school or something like that, right, very, very end.
But I did end up on the B honor roll. I had a really tough time my freshman year. That was the year I failed algebra. And I think a lot of it was because my dad and I weren't getting along at all that year. But in hindsight, he was having a series of strokes. And I think he just wasn't feeling good, and he probably didn't need to deal with a bratty teenage girl. But yeah, after that, I did much better. I ended up having to take a math class over. And my math teacher, I ended up with a straight A through that class. He says, I can't believe you failed algebra. And, but I think it was the teacher.
Teachers can make a big difference, yeah. Sometimes they're more important than the topic of the class itself.
Yeah. And once you start falling behind in algebra, you're lost.
Yeah, it's one of those topics that it keeps building on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a son there to help me.
So some of these we've kind of talked about already, like describing your mother, describing your father. What jobs did they have? What were their interests? Is there anything additional you want to talk about?
Yeah, I
your
want
parents?
say with my dad, I said earlier he had a tough childhood. And just glancing at my notes, his mother died when he was 6 years old. She died of pneumonia. And from what I understand, Milo, my grandfather, wouldn't take her to a doctor until it was too late. So she ended up dying. And then Milo ended up with a woman named Rose. I found where they had applied for a marriage license, but I could never find where they actually got married. But anyhow, they they were living on a farm, renting a farm, I believe, in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin. Rose was in the barn. Rose was in the barn with my grandpa, taking care of chores, probably milking cows and whatever. And my dad was supposed to be in the house watching a half-sibling named Josephine. Somehow a fire started. Josephine was sitting in her high chair, and she ended up burning to death in the house. And my dad had to run a half a mile to a neighbor's house to call for help. They didn't have a phone. And Ken White and I went to Ashwaubenon. I found this man on the internet, and I didn't want to go meet him alone because you never know. So Ken went with me, and he took us to the cemetery where Josephine was buried, and another child that Rose and Milo had that died in April of that same year. Josephine died in July. And the baby was only a few months old, and I don't have a death certificate for it. But then there was this fire. Josephine was from Rose earlier, and the baby was Milo and Rose's. And so, that was kind of tough on my dad. He never forgot that. I know he talked about it a little bit.
Did you ever find any newspaper accounts of that fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It didn't give too many details, but I do have it up in my paperwork. And
it's not known how the fire started.
not that I'm aware of. Why was she at that time frame, maybe, I don't know if they didn't have electricity, maybe there was candles in the house, but Josephine could not have started the fire, I don't believe, because she was in her high chair.
And about how old was your dad?
Well, my dad was 6 at that time.
6. And he was watching this baby.
Yeah. But yeah. So
I remember you saying a long time ago that your dad during the Depression was a hobo.
yeah,
can
he
you
just
add context to that?
a little bit. He hopped the train and ended up probably from Milwaukee to Sioux City, South Dakota.
So he would have been a young man, like in his 20s.
Probably because it was before he was married, and ended up in South Dakota, and his father Milo followed him. Then my dad and Milo ended up working for a farmer in North Dakota, I believe it was. And I know my dad went back to visit him years later. The guy remembered him. But then he met my mother at a dance in Milwaukee, and then they got together. Oh, my mother worked for a Jewish couple, I just remembered. And this Jewish couple wasn't very strict. You know how you hear about the kosher end of food, and this can't be cooked with this or whatever. You have to have different plates or different kettles for different things. You can't use the same kettle even though it's clean for different things that aren't kosher. But whenever their parents would come visit them, they would tell my mother, you have to be careful because my parents are very strict. So my mother must have been doing cooking for them. And I remember my mom telling me they had a Doberman that my mom would take with her on dates with my dad, and the dog would sit between them. I just remembered that.
One of my earliest recollections as a child was when my mother came and picked me up out of the crib and took me out on the front porch of the farm in Franklin to show me where a tornado had come through during the night and blew a barn down. And I see this pile of rubble. And later in the day, she took me closer to the barn, and I remember seeing a cat laying under this beam where I could see a tail sticking out and a couple legs, but the cat was killed under that beam. And that barn, my dad told me, it was 18 years before that, same location, the barn was blown down. So a tornado came through 18 years later and blew down the second barn.
Unlucky spot for a barn.
Yeah. Every time a storm was brewing during the night, my dad would get up and he'd get fully dressed, put on all his work clothes and his shoes, and he'd sit in the kitchen and say, he did that because in case lightning struck the barn, he could run out quick and let all the cows out, or if something happened, he would be ready to go.
Wow.
Oh, on that note, that just reminded me, when I was, I believe, a teenager living in Franklin, a bad storm came up, and the Hardy family lived across the road from us on a farm, and it was a huge lightning storm going on, and you could hear some really loud cracks. And my mother and I were sitting and watching TV, and a ball of, I'm going to say
Fire.
lightning or fire, a ball of fire came through the living room, went from one receptacle to another and out the house. And it turns out it knocked out the power at Hardy's place, I believe, and it also started a fire in their attic, but they caught that immediately. But that was scary, seeing that ball of fire going through.
I remember seeing that one time too, when we were all gathered in the kitchen and a ball of fire went through during a storm.
That's amazing. I've heard this story before, and it's a phenomenon called ball lightning that is a thing.
Yeah.
And I have looked online to see if anyone has ever caught video of ball lightning, and I haven't found any. So you two have witnessed something that no one has seemed to have recorded on video.
Well, how would you know to have your camera ready? And maybe houses nowadays are built different so that you wouldn't have that.
Well, you experienced a lightning strike at one time.
Yeah. When I was washing my car when I was 16, and lightning struck a tree not too far from where the car was and kind of knocked me down.
Yeah, I remember I was up in the backyard and I could see this storm approaching, and I was walking towards the house and I saw you washing the car, and as I'm approaching the house I said, Roger, I said, there's a big storm coming, you better come in. And boom, no more than I got to that back door, the lightning struck, and it struck a tree like 20 feet behind me. It knocked you to the ground, and I went back, I opened up the door, and I said, Roger, are you okay? And I went around the corner, and you were just getting up off the ground holding your arm.
I think that destroyed a squirrel box that was mounted to the side of the hickory tree.
And it blew out all my flowers planted there.
That were planted at the base of the tree.
It popped the flowers right out of the ground. And it was actually a birdhouse that was on that hickory tree, and it turned it inside out.
So it was a birdhouse, not a squirrel?
Right,
Okay.
it was a birdhouse,
Okay.
Yeah, and I got pictures of it. I don't know where they are now, but
And that tree did survive that lightning strike, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Which is nice, because that was a very nice hickory tree.
Yeah.
But I would like to go on to number 19, Ron, and that was going back to Rawson Avenue or Franklin.
Maybe, what is the question number 19, so we know what the topic is?
Number 19 is, tell me about your early memories of your spouse.
Oh, this gentleman here.
This gentleman, the only one I've had. And, but anyhow, we attended the same church, St. Paul's Lutheran Church on 51st Street. And
this would have been before you had moved away. In
Yeah,
Right.
in Franklin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah, it was before I would ride to Port Atkinson with Jim and Linda. Were they married?
But why don't you,
Oh, well, anyhow, when Ron and I became engaged, Ron's parents didn't like me. They didn't want us to get married, and a lot of the family didn't want us to get married. They were taking bets on how long our marriage would last. But Ron had given me, going back, no, he came to see me with his 1969 Dodge Charger that he had just bought for $3,000.
2700?
Oh, 2,700. And gave me his class ring and asked me to go steady with him. So I took it and had to put a little twine in there to make it fit because his finger was bigger than mine. And then one day, I don't know how long we were going together, but Jim and Linda came to the house in Franklin and told me Ron didn't want to go out with me anymore and he wanted his ring back. And I thought, well, what a coward. Why didn't he ask me? But I handed them the ring and gave it, and when they gave his ring back to Ron, they told him I didn't want to go out with him anymore. And I thought how deceitful that was. But we didn't catch that until years later.
We were married.
We were married for several years.
Before we found the truth out.
Yeah, he asked me one day why I broke up with him, and I said, well, I didn't break up with you. You broke up with me. So we discussed the scenario of what happened. And
So they were successful in the sense that it did break you up for a period of time, but then you obviously got back together.
Yeah, for about a year and a half.
Can you talk about how you got back together?
oh, that's when you bought the '69 Dodge Charger and you came to show it to me.
Oh yeah, and I was going past her house. I bought a new suit at Robert Hall just down the road from her
27th
house.
Street.
And so I stopped in her house to say hi, and then we kind of,
reconnected.
yeah, we reconnected and started dating again.
Okay. Let's jump back even earlier. So the first time you started dating, what were those early dates like? Were you driving by then? Because you knew each other when you were really young.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there were a number of years where you were just grade school kids who happened to know each other because you went to the same church together.
Yeah.
And so how did that transition happen from just knowing each other to the first few dates?
It's hard for me to remember. I don't think we really had any dates until I got a car,
Right.
a driver's license. And then on Sunday afternoons, I'd drive out to her house and we'd go to the park and fool around for a while until I had to go back home for chores in the evening.
We only had like Sunday afternoon dates.
Yeah, Sunday. We didn't go on an evening date until I think we were actually engaged.
Could be.
And that would have been a bit of a drive because you're in Hebron, you're in Franklin.
Yeah.
It's
An
about
hour.
an hour drive.
One way, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one time after chores, this is when I was growing up, my dad wasn't cutting my hair anymore, but I could go to Rome, the town of Rome, which is about 8 miles away, and I could get a haircut at Joe's barber for $1. He had his barber shop in the house. Well, I got there and it's closed. He had just closed up. And he said he closes at 8 o'clock, so he said, well, come back tomorrow night. So the next night I come back there, and it looked kind of dark in there, but I tried the door, and it jiggled a little bit, and it opened up. And here the room is kind of dark, but I see light coming in from one of the other rooms, and pretty soon here comes Joe. He said, how did you get in here? He said, I had the door locked. I said, I don't know, I just jiggled the doorknob and it opened up. He said, well, I'm closed up. I said, well, I don't get done with chores till 8 o'clock. By the time I get here, you're always closed up. He said, okay, well, go ahead and sit down. I'll cut your hair. So I got a haircut for $1. And I kept getting haircuts there until he closed up. He retired.
And then when we got married, you wanted me to cut your hair, and I said, I don't know how to cut hair. He said, well, my mother always did it, or
My dad used
your
to cut my
dad
hair.
did it.
Yeah.
And so the first time I cut his hair, it was so bad we had to go to the barber shop and get it straightened out. And the barber asked him what happened.
But you learned and got better, right?
Well, what I did is I went with him to the barber shop and I watched what he did.
I see.
So.
And then for years you did cut his hair regularly.
I still do.
You still do?
She still cuts my hair, yeah. Anytime the floor needs vacuuming, she'll say, Ron, you want a haircut? Because after she cuts my hair, I gotta vacuum everything.
Oh, you volunteer.
Do you remember the conversation, the day, I presume maybe you proposed to you?
I don't think there
Do
was
you
a proposal.
Remember, how did you become engaged?
I don't remember. I don't remember proposing to her.
I don't either.
I think we just loved each other so much that we just kind of decided we were gonna get married.
And you took me ring shopping, and I knew you didn't have much money, so I picked out about the cheapest ring I could see. Cost $100.
Yeah.
But he's made up for it now.
Then you would have been you were a senior in high school
Yeah,
when you became engaged. You were probably a couple years out of high school.
Yeah, I'm 2.5 years older.
Yeah. And you were still living an hour apart. So you went from dating maybe once a week, being an hour apart, and then when you got married, you moved in together. So that's good. That's quite a transition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty exciting time.
Well, we didn't move directly onto the farmhouse, though.
No. I was working as a hired man for a Schuth farm. He had registered Guernseys. And so I was working there for about 8 months before we got married. And then they gave us a room upstairs to live in after we got married, but we didn't.
Well, she was a pain in the butt.
Well, yeah, Mrs. Schuth was kind of a busybody. I remember them looking up through the.
That was
grate in the
Grandpa
floor.
Schuth.
Yeah, looking up at us.
From where they were there for
Yeah.
the floor, they could see.
Yeah,
up
because there
at
was
the
a
second
grate in the
floor?
hole where
Yeah.
the heat went up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I remember looking down and I saw his eyes and my eyes met.
But she would, I swear that woman always waited till we were sitting down for supper, and then she would want you to do this or that.
Yeah. So that's when I went back to the family farm, and my folks wanted to retire from the farm, so they bought a house in Hebron, and we hired, I don't know who paid for it, my dad or I paid for it, but Bill State Auction Service came to the farm and appraised everything, all the cattle, machinery, the feed, and everything, and listed everything. And then I can't remember, did we borrow the money from the bank, or we did a land contract and made payments to my folks?
I don't know if we had a formal land
I think we
contract,
made payments to my folks.
but we did make payments, monthly payments to your folks.
Yeah, and then rented the farm from them, and then her and I were farming.
Okay. Yeah, and I think we'll say for another day what early married life was like during those years. I'm sure there are some good stories there.
Yeah, big learning curve for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's maybe wrap this up. Are there any other things you want to talk about during your growing up years?
Oh, well, Mom and I used to go window shopping a lot. And one of the things, we would go to the F.W. Woolworth Company store. It was like a 5 and dime store. And they had a food counter. And if Mom had enough money, we would get a hamburger and a Coke.
And that was a treat? You enjoyed
That
doing
was
that?
a treat. Yes. And then sometimes, and I don't know how far it was from Franklin to Mitchell Street in Milwaukee, but at Christmas, during the holidays, she would drive me down there and we would go look at all the window displays because they were all decorated up beautifully. And sometimes there was people out there that were like mimes that were doing their little thing in the windows, and we would get to go see them.
Humans were in the windows.
Yeah.
Were they moving?
Yep.
Acting out certain scenes or something? Like, what were they doing in the window?
I don't remember totally. I just remember seeing people. Well, my dad's half brother, Robert White, he was a mime. And he also was part of the circus, and then he eventually ended up in Macon, Georgia. And my dad drove, he was married, oh gosh, Rose was his son. And he drove Rose down to Macon, Georgia so she could visit her son.
Mhm.
But anyhow, yeah,
Okay.
I have a lot more good memories with my mom, but my dad took me fishing, and I'd go fishing with him sometimes, and
Who would clean the fish in your
oh,
house?
not me. It was my dad. He always did that. And even when we had chickens, my mother was not the one out there butchering chickens or gutting them and cleaning them.
My mother did all that.
And my
She
mother
was
cooked
hard.
normal food.
My mother was a very hard worker.
She was, and she never got credit for it.
She didn't. I feel very bad about that. My dad he never did anything in the house, but my mother helped in the barn and in the fields, plus washing the clothes, making all the meals, taking care of all the kids, basically.
Yeah. Well, 7 kids, is it?
Yep.
7, yeah. Except Laura, the oldest and the youngest, never lived together at the same time. Because Linda was married, the oldest was married and gone before Laura was born.
Yeah, and yeah, I feel bad for your mother. I feel bad what Linda and Jim said to your mom and dad about me,
Yeah,
and that really turned your mom and dad against me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They told my folks that you were a spoiled little brat.
I probably was.
They, and they just ate it up, and then it turned them sour on her right away. So I don't know.
Yeah, Jim or Linda, I don't know which one, but they were telling Ron's mom and dad how I would sit on my dad's lap. There was nothing wrong with it. I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Skylar probably doesn't do it anymore, but when I was a little girl, I would sit on my dad's lap and curl up in his arms. And, evidently you guys didn't do that.
I remember Mom and Dad holding me when I was a little toddler.
In later years, did they warm up to you?
We ended up having a big blowout, and that's when Dad and I left the farm.
Because they still owned the farm.
Right.
And
We were
whatever
only
this blow up
renting it.
was that made it things difficult.
And the economic times were really rough on the farm at that time.
It was 1973, 74.
Yeah. There was milk strikes were going on. Farmers were dumping milk because the prices were so low. Calves when they ship in a calf, usually when the calf is sold, then they deduct the trucking expense, and the farmers didn't even get anything. There was no money left by the time the
Yeah.
trucking ate up the cost of shipping the calf in.
Well, and they would still owe money, the farmer.
Yeah.
But then we found this house to rent on Kramer Street, 429 West Kramer, and somehow your mother found out that we got a house to rent. I got 2 little kids, and I don't know how they found out who we were renting from, but they did not want the landlord to rent to us. She said she didn't care if we were on the street. And
Somehow she got a hold of the landlord.
yeah, and a few years, well, at some point in time, Tilly, who lived right next door to us, she told us the story because the landlord, Mr. James, he was our landlord,
James, yeah.
and he told her the story, and she eventually told me.
Yeah, Art and Tilly were good friends next door.
Yes,
They were retired farmers from Nebraska.
and we played euchre together.
Yeah, they taught us how to play euchre.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them. I can remember a grandfather clock in their living room for some reason.
Oh, really?
Oh,
They were nice people.
yeah.
They really helped me out when I was sick with the Hong Kong flu, and you were making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because I could not move off the couch.
Well, let's save more of these early married stories for another time.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to talk about from childhood?
One story that I remember was when I was on the farm in Franklin, and Grandpa took me and my sisters out in the fall, out to the cornfield to pick up ears of corn that had, after the corn was harvested, some ears would drop out on the ground. So they take a team of horses, Barney and Daisy was our team of horses, hooked them up to a wagon, went out to that field, and I was too small to really carry a bucket, so I was just sitting on the wagon, and my sisters were out picking up corn with Grandpa and dumping it on the wagon, and something spooked the horses. They took off running with the wagon, and I'm on the wagon, and nobody's steering the horses. It was a runaway team. And somebody hollered, "Ronnie, jump off the wagon." So I jumped off, and I remember rolling. And the horses ran all the way home, down the lane and around the corner, and they get up to the barn, and then they just stop. But that was a common thing years ago with horses. For some reason, they'd bolt and they'd run away, and a lot of times people got seriously hurt or killed.
Sure, you get caught under the wheels, you know?
Yeah.
So you learned how to drop and roll.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how those emotional events stay in your mind for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have anything exciting like that.
And I never got to town until we moved to Fort Atkinson on Fork Farm. Because I never got into town with my folks. They would go to town once a week on their egg route and do their shopping, and so us kids never got to go.
You mean, so, now that's interesting. You didn't go to,
I never was in a grocery store or nothing until we moved out to Hebron.
wow. Okay, well, great conversation.
Yeah.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Good, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for putting this all
Should I-
together.
Yeah, well,
Turn
let
it
me
off
walk
or-
around
Okay.
and hopefully these cameras are all still rolling, or at least one of them. So let's see what we've got here. This one died before, so this one died again, so that's not great. Hopefully this
Was
one's
that your
still going.
camera?
That's my old one.
Oh.
Good, that was still running, so that's good. And let's make sure mine is still running over here.